Welcome to West Shore Unitarian Universalist Church, a spiritual community whose hope is Brian Gardner, Worship Associate, and Christine and Dan. These walls to be a part of our worship. And we know that there are so many joys in our world, and we also know there is so much suffering, so many conflicts, not enough compassion. May our worship hour be one which magnifies our joys and brings to each of us the healing. A special welcome to you if you are a newcomer to our community, gay or straight, cisgender or transgender, whatever your race or ethnicity, whether you are here in the sanctuary or worshiping with us at home, you are welcome. I'd like to spotlight several announcements, though to get the full story on each, please check out your weekly e-newsletter, which always goes out on Friday. So next Sunday, it is Help Us, Help the Homeless. Hope, which is our UU presence in the inner city. Look for the box at the social action table in the rotunda. Cash or check donations are also welcome. Our next announcement relates to one of our adult lifelong learning courses. Did you just turn me on? I'm Anthony McCarr, Senior Minister of West Shore UU Church. And we're going to keep on going. That's okay. That's all right. Next announcement refers to one of our adult lifelong learning courses, Aspects of Dementia. Session 2, Communication with Those Who Have Dementia. It's been rescheduled from November 11th to November 18th at 2 p.m. In-person attendance is encouraged if possible. Now, my next announcement is about an issue that is very important, I believe, for Unitarian Universalism here in this faith community and all across the world. I preached about this past June, and our 8th Principle Learning Community has for several months now been opening up a space where we are getting to know this proposed 8th principle, this proposed addition to our 7 principles which we have had for many years and which we love and are so important to our sense of faith identity. Our next action step as a congregation is to start an all-church engagement at all levels on the 8th principle. To do this, 10% of congregants, around 50 people, must indicate an interest in exploring the meaning of the 8th principle by signing a petition. The petition is an agreement to continue the conversation on a broader platform. If you sign it, all you are saying is that, yes, it would be good for West Shore to take a closer look at what might become the 8th principle, as I said earlier, added to the 7 that we have had for quite a time now. To sign the petition, you can look for the link in your weekly e-news, or you can contact Tim Smith or Linda New. And as your minister, I want to strongly encourage us to take a closer look at our 8th principle. Thank you. And finally, the last announcement for this morning, another important one, it is that we are postponing the annual service auction. Everybody here, oh, which is going to be held in a few weeks. We're going to postpone it to a later date, to February 5th of next year. We are postponing it because it is clear, it's becoming clear, that we're still feeling our way forward we're still feeling our way back to each other in this space, in this crazy COVID-19 world, and that more time is needed. It just is, for all of us to get to a more comfortable place with larger gatherings. Auction leaders announce that or acknowledge that the state of the virus, these issues, state of the virus issues, won't be completely erased by a postponement, but hopefully they will be minimized. The new date, again, is February 5th, and it was chosen with an eye to the church calendar so as not to overlap or conflict with other events that are being planned. And we still plan to hold a September auction, the 2022 auction in November. We're still planning on getting back to a regular schedule of things. There is a lot of gratitude to all who have sent in your donations, folks who have purchased tickets. Know that your information and ticket purchases will be forwarded to the new date. If you need to change the date of your scheduled event that you have put out there for the auction, or have an issue with your tickets, please call Debbie Elliott in the office, and she'll make all the necessary adjustments. I do want to say that sale of 50/50 raffle tickets, it's going to continue. Folks, we've got the possibility of an enormous final total. I mean, $10,000? Is that out of the question? I don't know. We just appreciate your understanding of this difficult decision. And if you've got any questions or concerns about the rescheduling, please feel free to contact one of your chairs. Kelly Pincus, I think is Kelly here this morning? Kelly, Chris Baumhauer, Pam Smith. Check in with one of those folks, let them know, and love on them, because as with all our volunteers, folks are putting good energy into this and just wanting us to have wonderful experiences here at West Shore. And there we are, important announcements indeed. Once again, welcome to this new day.
Every week, we light our chalice, symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. It is a beautiful reminder that no matter how jarring events might happen over the course of the week, the gathered community that is West Shore Unitarian Universalist Church is a source of stability and meaning that we can depend on. And so now I light our chalice with these words: every day brings struggle. Every day brings joy. Every day brings us the opportunity to ease the struggle of another, to be the joy in another's life. May this flame remind us to carry our light to each other and to the world. Let us witness to the unity of our spirit by saying together our unison affirmation words. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia, y el servicio su ley. Este es nuestro magnífico convenio. Vivir juntos en paz, buscar la verdad en el amor y ayudarnos los unos a los otros.
Remembering the journey of freedom. The land we are on was once another's. We mourn the legacies of oppression. Healing is our way forward. Joy
So may it be. And now we turn to our time of greeting, beginning with a special acknowledgement of the military veterans in our midst, together with their families. November 11th is Veterans Day, and here at West Shore we honor this day with a recognition of those among us who have served, and also of their families whose sacrifices have been extensive as well. And so we now show a slideshow of some pictures folks submitted. Bob Beamer, Mark Cook, Carrie McIntyre, Ken Meisener, Ken Rasmussen, and I'm sure there's others. May this community embrace those who have served in our armed forces in whatever ways they served, in times of peace and in times of war. May their families be equally embraced. May they receive healing care in abundance and gratitude for their service. And may all of us be faithful in our continuing pursuit of the ideals of liberty and justice for all, and be faithful to pursuing these ideals in our own lives and actions. May it be so, and may it be so. And now, beloved community, let us greet each other in the spirit of love. If you are worshiping with us at home, you are invited to share the names of folks you're holding in your personal thoughts and prayers. And you can type those names into our West Shore Facebook chat if you like. And now for the folks who are worshiping here in the sanctuary, turn around, say hello to those folks at home, to the rest of our community. Just go ahead and wave at them. And then, of course, here with your fellow West Shore folks here in the sanctuary, say hello to each other, greet each other with a namaste or a wave. We're going to get back to hugging each other and stuff, but for now, send a loving hello. This has been our greeting time, where we remember that there can be places in this difficult world which are truly holy, where we do feel love, where we do feel amazing grace. And now we're going to turn to our first hymn for the day, number 1008, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. We have indeed missed singing in church, and now we're moving on to the next phase, and it's this: if you are vaccinated and wish to sing, you may do so behind your mask. Keep your mask on. If you are not vaccinated, we ask you to refrain from singing at this time. Please stand as you are willing and able.
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we share the silence of sacred space and the God of our hearts stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith. Then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place.
Good morning, West Shore. My name is Brian Gardner, he, him, and I am honored to be a member of the Worship Associate Team and to share my reflection with you this morning. This week I found myself thinking about a concept believed by the ancient Stoics. It's called eudaimonia. It is a Greek word that translates approximately to good spirit and is often referred to in English as happiness or joy. This was considered to be a permanent state of happiness, one that isn't impacted by the outside world. It was considered the final destination of someone that has full mastery of their inner self through both thought and action. As one philosopher put it, sick and yet happy, in peril and yet happy, dying and yet happy, in exile and happy, in disgrace and happy? For me, that sounds a little bit, I gotta say, disconnected. When I'm sick, especially if I've got a high fever, I am not happy. I am tired, I'm achy, I'm grouchy, let alone something like being in disgrace or exile. So what sort of end goal is that? Happiness, no matter what? Aren't we allowed to be grumpy or sad or any number of other emotions that we are capable of experiencing? And so I was wondering, was something lost in translation? Well, I can't speak Greek, but I do have experience in learning languages beyond English. And one of the things that I learned in learning to speak Portuguese is that in both Portuguese and Spanish, there's a concept that doesn't exist really in English. And it is simple but profound. It is the usage of two different words for expressing to be. Those words would be ser and estar. And when we conjugate that into the first person in English, it means I am. And in Portuguese, that would translate to sou and estou. And so taking this, if I were to say both sou feliz and estou feliz, both would translate literally to I am happy. But the crucial distinction is what is meant by I am. Estou feliz means that I am happy at this exact moment. That usage of I am is the same way if I were to say I'm on my way. It really means the now. In contrast, so is the way of saying I am at a foundational level. So Brian means I am Brian. This is who I am. And so to be able to say sou feliz would mean that at the deepest level, that a person is happy, perhaps even in spite of what is felt at a very specific moment. So think of those people that you may know that you would just describe as joyous in nature. And so as I started thinking about things in this way, eudaimonia could be taken to mean, in this ser sense of the term, happy, joyous, or content. to find not only pockets of joy in life, but to also develop a sense of self that is foundationally joyous, a joy that exists in permanent residency of the heart, even though temporary guests like sadness or frustration may come and go. And I don't really think I've reached eudaimonia, but that sounds really nice. So if it's a destination then, something worth considering, then what might that journey look like? I certainly don't know the full scope of the journey, but I can think of two small personal lessons over the past year and a half. The first was recognizing that while I can't end the pandemic and these large-scale things around the world that just feel beyond my control, there are small things in life that I can accomplish. I've shared before that I'm a big fan of gardening. My name is Gardener, after all. And I do have to say that growing and tending a garden, it really has helped me to remember that even in the middle of chaos, there can be calm, and that I also don't have to feel as though I am just untethered and being swept to and fro by the continual currents of history. The second lesson I wanted to share was learning a simple phrase, a phrase shared by longtime organizer and activist Mariame Kaba. Hope is a discipline. Those 4 words, hope is a discipline, could probably lead to an entire sermon, hint, hint. To have hope, to be disciplined in hope, even when moments may feel hopeless, that seems to me like it's a critical piece of the puzzle of one day being able to say and mean it, so feliz. And so, I know I began this by referencing that this idea of eudaimonia comes from Stoicism. And popular usage of the word Stoic is often meant to mean a person that is indifferent to the surrounding world and perhaps indifferent to all emotion. But the heart of the ancient school of Stoicism is in joy and in learning how to live life in a way that can create deep, foundational joy. And I think about the words Dave sang in response to our chalice lighting. Joy is the birthright of all. May we continue to learn and share as we discover the many paths to our birthright.
Thank you, Brian. You know, this past week was a big one, given the November 2nd elections. And what I want to say is that West Shore made a difference to the outcome. I want to say that right now with great pride. Because of your time and energy and money, we are able to co-create this place which rallies people together to important causes. Life is busy, we all know this. So it matters for there to be a place like this that says to us, pay special attention, or don't forget about that. One of the things West Shore did to encourage folks to do is to pay close attention to the school board races all over Northeast Ohio. While news about school boards can easily fall under the radar, their decisions have massive impacts on our communities, our schools, our children. So West Shore said, take a closer look. And you did, together with other Northeast Ohio voters. And the results are clear from this following headline: anti-mask, anti-mandate, anti-critical race theory school board candidates in Northeast Ohio fared poorly on Election Day. Election results from school board races across Northeast Ohio showed voters overwhelmingly supported candidates who were positive about mask mandates and progressive curriculum changes. And you were a part of that. So I want to thank you. I want to thank you. And I want to thank you if you turned out to canvass in Old Brooklyn on October 20th and October 27th on behalf of Issue 24, increasing civilian oversight over police. West Shore proved once again to be a place where information and people are rallied together to good effect. You may remember Emma Keeshan, lead organizer of Showing Up for Racial Justice. She came to speak here at our worship service on October 10th. She informed us about why Issue 24 deserved a yes vote. The following week, your minister was out there together with a good number of your fellow congregants. We were knocking on doors. We were having real conversations with real people about this issue, and we also did it the week after that. Cleveland voters, as you may know, in the end said yes to Issue 24. Come on now. It's a big deal. You know, it's just really easy. We do things and then we keep on moving forward, but we just need to sometimes pause and to say, hey, we helped with this. We helped to make this happen. We need to celebrate. And we must recognize that when you support this community with your time and your energy and your dollars, you get real results. Thank you for your pledges. Thank you for all your gifts. The morning's offering will now be given and gratefully received. So, as a spiritual being having a human experience, I like to follow the science. Not that I disvalue more traditional sources of spiritual wisdom, but it is thrilling when they and science dovetail. It is thrilling when wisdom thousands of years old and cutting-edge science are singing in harmony. I had a moment of thrill recently when I read a certain paragraph from University of Michigan psychology professor Ethan Kross's recent book entitled Chatter. Here it is. He writes, the psychological experience of challenge and threat have unique biological signatures. When you put a person into a threatening state, their heart starts pumping blood faster throughout the body. The same is true of a challenging state. A key difference, though, between the two is how the tangle of arteries and veins that carry that blood respond. When a person is in a threat state, their vasculature, their system of arteries and veins constricts, leaving less room for that blood to flow, which over time can lead to certainly high blood pressure, to burst blood vessels, to heart attacks. In contrast, when people are in a challenge mode, their vasculature relaxes, allowing the blood to move more easily throughout the body. Okay, that's the quote. And this single quote has so many implications for spirituality. One relates to the distinction between seeing something as a challenge versus seeing it as a threat. When it is a challenge, you can trust that you will somehow have the resources to cope. When it is a threat, you trust that you won't have the resources to cope, that you are going to get blown away by this thing that's coming before you. If spirituality is anything, it is a capacity to imagine that whatever stress you are facing is a challenge you can manage with creativity and courage, even if the source of the stress is the worst, as in facing an incurable cancer, or in facing some structural social oppression that targets you. Even so, you trust that in some ultimate sense, the most important part of you, at the very least your dignity, is safe, and that nothing and no one can take that away unless you let them. Spirituality is a journey of learning that. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. He maketh me lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. Spirituality is a journey of learning that. And yet another implication for spirituality coming from Dr. Cross's observation that the experience of challenge and threat have unique biological signatures. Yet another observation is this, that if we can get into a spiritual mindset when we are facing stress, meaning that no matter how terrible that source of stress seems, we're going to regard it as a challenge and not a threat, okay? Then, if we can get into that spiritual mindset, our very arteries and veins in our bodies, they can stay relaxed. They can receive the increased blood flow being pumped into them. And you know, that has profound relevance too. And it goes simply beyond being more effective in our responses in life. It goes beyond that. Writer D.H. Lawrence puts his finger on it when he says, "My great religion is a belief in the blood, the flesh, as being wiser than the intellect. We can go wrong in our minds, but what our blood feels and believes and says is always true. The intellect is only a bit and a bridle." In other words, the mind-body connection is intrinsic to spirituality. It is not a cut-off thing. It is not spirituality. It's not just about a protected corner in our lives. It is about everything. Whenever and wherever blood is flowing in your body, there is that question about how easily or not it is flowing. And it is very possible for people to feel like they are in a threat state all the time, and their bodies suffer from unending inflammation with all the sickness that leads to. It just doesn't have to be that way. And you know, as the Buddha taught, suffering is not inevitable. The cessation of suffering through the nirvana experience is achievable, he said, by all. Or, as Viktor Frankl, a contemporary representative of the thousands of years old tradition of Stoicism, as he would say, as Frankl would say, he would say, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. All of these insights about spirituality. inspired by a single quote from a book on psychological science. And now we are ready to get into the heart of this sermon. The voice in your head, the voice in my head. How, faced by stress, our inner voice can put us firmly in a threat state in so many ways. Number one, through hyper-reflection and self-analysis. Number two, or by saying monstrously cruel things about oneself or about others. Or number three, through rambling soliloquies about how you're headed for disaster. Or number four, that voice endlessly repeating one single horrible thought. Or number five, through free association pinballing from one negative thought to another. Do you know this voice? Well, if you're not laughing, you're crying, right? I know this voice too. How about that worrying voice that wakes you up at 2 a.m. in the morning. 2 a.m. in the morning, it will not shut up. You guys know that voice? I know about it too. Here's one story I want to share with you about my inner voice. It goes back to 2010, when I was in between ice dancing partners. When that was the case, I decided to compete in freestyle. That meant stress. That meant doing something very different from what I had been doing for many years. I was used to dancing with a partner, doing ice dance moves on the ice to ice dance music. But freestyle was about being on the ice solo, performing a routine that included jumps and spins. You know, ice dancers don't do that. It's just a very different sort of discipline. All that stress playing out in front of a crowd and also 7 judges who are going to be watching you like a hawk. Got it? Stress. Now, public speaking, well, that sort of activity puts most people into a fright. But not me. I'm a minister. I've been doing this for 1,000,000 years. But skating alone on the ice in front of God and everybody, well, I won't ever forget my time at the 2010 Adult National Championships. I'm remembering back to that hour before I got on the ice to skate. Unconsciously, I have somehow decided that the stress I am feeling is a threat. Somehow, I have become certain that I cannot cope with what is happening, and I am going to be blown away. I've just somehow decided that. And so, my heart is beating a mile a minute, and my blood feels lumpy, like it can't get pushed through the rest of my body, right? Because my vasculature is like this. Blood is thick, palms are clammy and cold. Oh, my coach is beside me, has been telling me all along, that the quality of my jumps and spins and skating in general far outshines the 7 other men I'm going to be competing against. But I cannot hear him for all of the shouting that's going on in my head. That voice in my head is screaming at me. I am having intrusive thoughts. I can see myself fall. I can see myself screw up in 1,000,000 different ways. I am supposed to get on that ice in 1 hour. I'm supposed to go there and perform skills that I have been working on for years, the sort of skills that are so complex and intricate that the only way to pull them off is just to let my body do its thing that it's been training to do for years, just to let it do its thing. But you know, the voice in my head, it is demanding that I bring awareness to each of my program elements and break them down, break each one down, take each one and think it through. Well, how do you think my program went? Paralysis by analysis. There's this poem I encountered recently by Catherine Craster. It goes like this. Maybe you've heard it. A centipede was happy, quite, until a toad in fun said, "Pray, which leg moves after which?" This raised her doubts to such a pitch she fell exhausted in the ditch, not knowing how to run. I stepped on that ice, and my body, my vasculature, my body was tight. I was constricted. I was shaking. I did fall on everything. I screwed up on everything. Those other skaters, whom I was presumably far better than, they far outskated me. I ended up that day winning the last place medal. Someone was so sorry for me, they literally went to like Target and got these plastic medals for kids and gave me my last place medal. I finished at the bottom, number 8. Have you ever fallen victim to the cruel voice inside your head? And the rest of you are liars? I don't know, I'm sorry. I don't want to be rude. You know, what makes all of this so very difficult is, first of all, the fact that the voice in our head is not always cruel. It is, in fact, sometimes our very best coach. It really is. I mean, what got me doing something different in skating to begin with, what helped keep me going after I lost my first ice dancing partnership in 2006, was that voice in my head that was encouraging and generous and kind and said to me, you can do this, you can do it. I mean, it's a real puzzle. Dr. Cross himself says that it is the great puzzle of the human mind, the inescapable tension of the inner voice as both a helpful superpower and destructive kryptonite. How can the voice, he asks, that serves as our best coach also be our worst critic? You know, there's another reason why this issue of the self-undermining voice in our head is so tough. It's because that voice comes from within us. It comes from the place that is supposed to be under our control, but it feels like we can't control it. It's that 2 a.m. demon, right? In the middle of the night that just will not shut up. It wakes you up with its shouting. And if you're like me, you try to wrestle it into submission. You try to hit it back with hard power. And what does that do to that voice? Just makes it louder, makes it worse. In that hour before I got on the ice, I knew I was caught in a downward spiral. I knew it. But my terrified inner voice was like a screaming baby, and it did not matter how hard I tried to hush it up, it just only made the screaming louder. This is just tough. It really is. But now I want you to hear again what contemporary Stoic Viktor Frankl says. When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. Faced with the reality of the inner critic who is firmly lodged in us and will not go away no matter how hard we try to force it, we are challenged to change ourselves. But how? I would say by changing how we imagine what is going on. Change that, change your imagination, and you can change what you do. And we may also know that a change in imagination often requires a change in vocabulary. And Brian was offering up some of that vocabulary from the Portuguese just a moment ago. What I want to offer up to you here is some vocabulary that comes from the research of Dr. Cross. 2 words, immersing versus distancing. Immersing is when a person experiences a stressful event completely from within a self-centered place, from an inflexibly first-person perspective. In other words, something difficult in the moment happens, difficult emotions arise, and you stay inflexibly zeroed in on that hurt, or on that fear, or on that sense of betrayal, or on that sense of being shamed and stepped on, or whatever the flood of emotions may be. You stay in that. Maybe you find people to talk to about that stuff. But these are the sort of people whose questions cause you to just continually, endlessly rehash what happened and re-experience those difficult emotions again and again, and your conversations never move beyond that to the larger picture. The ultimate result of all of this immersion is that your body is releasing endlessly adrenaline and cortisol, which only serves to reinforce the intensity of your emotions, which in turn revs up the negative chatter in your head. That free associative pinballing from one painful thought to another, the demon at 2 a.m., the distorted and debilitating inner commentary. Above all, with immersing comes the illusion that there can be no choice of standpoint for you, no choice of the perspective that you can take of the situation you are in. Frank Herbert, author of that classic book Dune, in the theaters right now, he memorably says that fear is the mind killer. Okay, I just outed the science fiction nerds among you. Sorry. Fear is the mind killer. He is right. Fear kills the mind in its capacity to make free choices if fear is allowed full sway. Anger or anxiety or fear flood your system, and in that undertow, quicker than you know, your freedom is drowned, and the choice has already been made for you to see what you are facing as a threat that's going to blow you away. But that is not true. It never is. One's dignity is the ultimate thing, and no one and nothing can take that away from you unless you let them. Stoic that he is, Viktor Frankl says, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. But immersion hides that space. It covers up that space. It collapses that space. Thankfully, immersion is not inevitable. And now we can turn to that other piece of terminology coming from Dr. Cross, which is distancing. Distancing is when you use your imagination to zoom out from too close of a perspective and to get a larger and more well-balanced sense of things. Distancing is the solution when the negative chatter in your head has gone into overdrive and you are needing a way out. Distancing is also the solution if you are wanting to be proactive and prevent that negative chatter in the first place, or to minimize it. This is where the sermon about the discipline of hope starts. In cases when the negative chatter in your head is already amped up, here are some things you can do, which psychological experimentation has shown really works. And note that none of them involve exertions of hard power, as when you try to force that loud, cranky, upsetting inner voice in your head to shut up. None of these techniques involve that. First of all, here's something you can do. Travel imaginatively into the future. Consider the stress that is in your life right now, and then ask yourself to imagine how you're going to feel about it, likely to feel about it, 10 years from now, in the future. 10 years from now. Is this thing you are dealing with really going to be worth all the worry that you're investing into it? Or you might do this. Travel into your past, imaginatively. Remember previous stressful times and how you found a way through. You did it then, you can get through present stressful times. Now, I know some of us are already anxious about the possibility that our favored president will not win the next election, right? We got through it in 2016, didn't we? This is a technique of distancing. Or this, remember humility. You know, sometimes the destructive inner voice can communicate unconscious biases. I am talking horrendously offensive racial stereotypes, gender stereotypes, sex stereotypes, age stereotypes, religious stereotypes, and on and on. When you go about your daily life, you hear others parroting them, and it is disgusting. But now the voice in your head, your very own Unitarian Universalist voice, can at times be saying the same things. Have you ever caught yourself doing that? This is exactly the time to remember humility, that you are not a self-created being, that you do not live on your very own island, that, as Dr. Cross says very well, the voices of culture influence our parents' inner voices, which in turn influence our own, and so on, through the many cultures and generations that combine to tune our minds. He says, listen, we are like Russian nesting dolls of mental conversation. Do you see that image? We are like Russian nesting dolls of mental conversation. I mean, given this distanced perspective, we must not fall into the trap of immersion, which looks like blaming oneself as a horrible person when these thoughts pop up. Don't do that. Don't go to immersion. Go to distancing. Bring compassionate awareness to the biased ideas. Bringing compassionate awareness to the biased ideas, that is the path to transformation, and science shows that that works. When you bring compassionate awareness to these biases, they stop having power over you. The science shows that. If immersion is like trying to deal with shoelaces that are knotted up, and you think you've solved things, but you're just pulling on the strings even tighter, you're just making that knot even worse. If that's immersion, distancing wants to go in the opposite direction and loosen things up so the emotional knots can come undone. The research on distancing that was most surprising to me personally revolved around speaking to oneself as though one were speaking to someone else. Distanced self-talk. This distanced self-talk, says Dr. Cross, has remarkably quick results in calming an inner voice that is spinning out of control. You know, in that hour before I stepped on the 2010 Adult National Figure Skating ice, I really could have helped myself if I had said something like this. This is distanced self-talk. This is an example of it. Anthony, you're going to be okay. Anthony, you got this. Just saying your name to yourself. You know, when you're trying to provide positive coaching, that really works to calm things down. It's about changing the tone of our inner voice, tuning it to something more constructive in our lives. When we can distance, we can more regularly operate from a spiritual place that sees every source of stress as a challenge, not a threat. And therefore, the blood in our bodies tells the truth of where we are. It is flowing more freely. And then there is proactive distancing. Distancing that is not so much about firefighting in the moment to manage an out-of-control negative inner voice, so much as it is an ongoing discipline of living. Again, that discipline of hope that Brian referred to a bit ago. Proactive distancing is about the regular things that you can do to enable you to stay more frequently in a place of spiritual centeredness as much as possible. Here's one of these regular things you can do. You can choose to be with people who, after they have made you feel validated and understood, whatever your hurt is, they help you to find a bigger picture of things. In other words, people who do not encourage you to stay in immersion mode and continually rehash and relive the stressful thing that happened. Dr. Cross calls this the co-rumination trap. Don't go there. Choose your friends carefully. Same goes when we are talking about our social and political leaders. Some nurture resentment and victimization and want to stir up a spirit of warfare. Others, they are addressing real problems, but they still preach ultimately a vision of hopefulness and of common humanity. Choose your leaders wisely too. Yet another form of proactive distancing is through ritual. Listen to Dr. Cross. Experiments show that cueing people to engage in completely arbitrary acts that are nevertheless rigid in structure has benefits. For example, in a karaoke study in which participants had to sing Journey's Don't Stop Believing. Okay, when participants were going to sing karaoke, Don't Stop Believing, they were asked to draw a picture of their feelings, sprinkle salt on it, count to 5 out loud, then ball up the paper, toss it into the trash. This mere one-time reliance on ritual, says Dr. Cross, improve their performance. Did you hear that? Draw a picture of your feelings, sprinkle some salt on it, count to 5 out loud, then toss it in the trash. This has nothing to do with singing or with anything else, really, and yet that experiment showed that if you engage in ritual like this before singing or doing something that's going to make you anxious, the voice in your head's going to get calmed down. It's going to feel better. You're going to perform better. Psychologists call this compensatory control. It's what tennis great Rafael Nadal does. You ever seen Rafael Nadal? I don't know how many tennis fans, but you watch this guy, you imagine, he goes out into the court, and always he places his ID face up on his bench. He always carefully arranges his water bottles so they're perfectly aligned in front of his bench. He always makes sure his hair is right just before he serves. None of this has anything to do with tennis. And yet it helps him to quiet his inner voice on the court. It helps him to play from a more spiritual place of this is a challenge, not this is a threat. So, Rachel, next time we compete, I got to have a ritual to start the routine, right? We actually do have one, but it doesn't involve salt or like drawing my feelings on a piece of paper. But are y'all following this compensatory control? Isn't this cool? I would also suggest right here, in this concept of compensatory control, that we can find scientific justification for the power of religious ritual of all kinds. What does lighting a chalice have to do with helping us get into a more spiritual place and being more loving and forgiving in our lives? There's just something to this ritual that helps to open things up. Do you know what I'm saying? I also want to say that in this concept of compensatory control also comes justification for pagan spellcraft. Let me say that again, pagan spellcraft. I am talking about magical spell work that has been around for thousands of years. Wherever your mind goes, I'm not sure where it's going to go, but just imagine someone trying to perform a spell. That could be seen as another form of compensatory control, right? The rigid manner of doing the things that are involved in casting the circle and so on. I'm just following the science, folks, inviting us to reimagine stuff that's happening already out there and we've never really seen it as distancing, but it is. Again and again, ancient religious traditions and contemporary science coming together, dovetailing. But I must mention one more form of proactive distancing before I close today. which is enormously helpful in calming a negative inner voice and dwelling in a spiritual place that sees stressful events as challenges and not threats. It is this: to regularly experience moments of awe. Awe, A-W-E, awe, says Dr. Cross, is considered a self-transcendent emotion in that it allows people to think and feel beyond their own needs and wants. This is, he adds, reflected in what happens in the brain during awe-inspiring experiences. The neural activity associated with self-immersion decreases. It's similar to how the brain, he goes on to say, responds when people meditate or take LSD, which are both notorious for blurring the line between a person's sense of self and the surrounding world. Okay, so that's what he says. So what I want to say to you is, let's practice distancing through seeking out moments of experiencing awe. Put yourself before natural scenery that takes your breath away. Make the Cleveland Metro Parks your home away from home. Or place your eyes before some poetry that literally sends shivers down your back. Or go to a famous place that fills you with the wonder of history. Or when Dave plays one of his organ pieces and the music swells and flows, go with it. Be in this space. Look at the architecture. Look up. This is spiritual architecture. It is meant to draw your eye upwards into verticality. It is meant to help you feel more expanded. Go with it. Go with it. That is what spiritual architecture does. I'll tell you, one of my favorite spots in Cleveland is the Art Museum. You go into that space and the verticality. Do you know what I'm saying? It just feels so awesome and awe-inspiring. Awe-filled experiences like these literally reduce inflammation in your body. They calm things way down. They change the synaptic flow of your thoughts. They soften the inner voice that is screaming pain. They soften it. They soothe it. And in its place instead arises a voice that is wiser and is deeper, the voice in your head that you do truly need in this moment, in this world that needs you, this world that needs you to be your best spiritual self, this wiser and deeper voice, this voice in your head that may not say the exact words I am just about to say, but the calmness is the same. The sense of ultimate security is the same. The sense of hopefulness is the same. The voice in your head that says, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me down the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. Amen. Let us now sing our concluding hymn. I invite you to rise to stand as you are willing and able. Number 1064, Blue Boat Home. Oh, below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the light of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the winds urging me on, greet the infinite sea before me, sing my sky the sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. Wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry with us until we meet again.
You know, when I sing Blue Boat Home, I can't help but do this. And I was hoping I'd have like an unconscious influence on you, so by the time we were done, we would all be like this. But it worked only on a couple of you. But that's, I'm here for a while, right? So we'll get there maybe one of these days. Quick reminder, please join me for the sermon chat at 12:30 today. I will see you on Zoom. And now our benediction. Blessed is the path upon which you travel. Blessed is the body that carries you on it. Blessed is your heart that has heard the call. Blessed is your mind that discerns the way. Blessed is the gift that you will receive by going. Truly blessed is the gift that you will become because you are taking the journey. And so may it be. Ashe. Go in peace.